Okay, I think that we can now start. So once again, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. The third Thursday of September has approached and it's time for the first webinar after the summer holidays. Today on the topic of technology. This webinar is kind of special because it is organized in cooperation with our expert group on technology, whose two members will deliver a presentation today. For those who do not know me, my name is Mirka Jakešová and I work for Confederation of European Probation as a CP Policy Officer. And today with me, I have my colleague, CP Policy Officer, Mrs. Anna Esquerra-Roqueta, and of course, our dear guest speakers, Pia Andersson and David Raho. We are excited to welcome you here, and we are, of course, happy that you make time in your busy agendas to join us for this short session. As always, this webinar is being recorded. So if you cannot stay for the entire time, or you know everyone or anyone who cannot attend today, the webinar will soon be published on the CEP YouTube channel. At this moment, you can also already find there the first 3 webinars that have already taken place this year. The first one on the topic of alternatives to detention, namely the Women's Problem-Solving Court Sentence as an Alternative to Custody, delivered by Fiona Deacon from His Majesty's Prison and Probation Service, England and Wales. Then the second one on the topic of violent extremism, discussing the strategies for working with radicalized individuals, delivered by Shuma Ilger from the Violence Prevention Network in Germany. And the third one that took place in May on volunteers, that was discussing the volunteer probation service in Austria. The presentation was delivered by our Austrian colleague from Austrian Neustadt, Mrs. Katrin Koller. And this webinar also covered the COBRE project that is led by CEP in cooperation with other 6 partners. So that was a brief overview of the topics that we have so far covered. And for today, I said this one is special because in here I have with me 2 members of the expert group on technology. The expert group has 8 members. And it is, by the way, one of the longest operating expert groups working within the CEP. So today you will learn a bit about the work of the expert group, as well as you will be presented with the practice recommendations regarding technologies in probation that have been developed in the past year by the group. Our 2 speakers for today are Pia Andersson, who is the chair of the expert group, and she's also CEP board member, working with the Prison and Probation Service of Finland. And the second speaker is David Raho, who is one of the experts in the group for technology, working with His Majesty's Prison and Probation Service, England and Wales. The short introduction from me now ends, and with no further delay, we can start with the presentation. So Pia and David, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mirka, and welcome to this webinar from the part of the whole expert group of technology in CEP as well. Today we will shortly give you our input in the recommendations we have been working on. And as Mirka was mentioning, in the end of the presentation, we have our opportunity also to discuss if you want to raise some questions during this webinar. So we are going to talk about practice recommendation regarding technologies in probation. This is something we have been discussing in the Confederation of European Probation, that we are very much in a world of technology and digitalization nowadays in all the jurisdictions of CEP, and we wanted to look into how we as an expert group can help all the jurisdictions when you are considering use of technologies or digitalization, or already has started the path of digital probation. So first of all, I want to introduce the expert group. We have several members from different countries. So myself, Pia Andersson is the chair of the group. Then we have had members Ines from Austria, Imants from the State Probation Service of Latvia, and Gillian from the Probation Board for Northern Ireland, and then David from England and Wales, and then Jason from Georgia, And then we have had 2 members from the Croatian Probation Service, Goran and Korjalka, and then Mirka representing the Confederation of European Probation in this expert group. Sorry about that. Good that you mentioned. So the process of preparing the recommendations. So the expert group started to collect recommendations made about the Council of Europe. And then we have benchmarking different kind of approaches regarding use of technology and digitalization in different countries. Then we have, as a group, have discussions. We have worked mostly online together. And then we have also have a discussion about the differences and the similarities we can find. And then we have also appreciating the differences in use of probation rules and recommendation, but also digitalization and technology. And then we have started to draft the first versions. Then we have collected feedback about the version of the practice recommendation. And then finally, we have been agreeing on the consensus of the content and still worked on the last bit of the writing. And then we have been approving the content, and then we have still the final layout of the recommendations ongoing. And then after this, we have some next steps, which we will share in the end of the webinar. The content of the practice recommendation is about technology, but in the beginning, we have made some definitions because in different jurisdictions, we use a little bit different terminology in our probation work. So we have concluded what kind of definitions we want to use in this recommendation paper. And then we have gathered some core principles on probation and technology. And then we go more thoroughly through what digital probation means today, what it can mean, and what we can see some trends going on when we talk about digital probation. And then in the end, we share some good practices, and there is also some discussion and references and glossary in the end of the recommendations document. But the purpose of the practice recommendations is 6, what we can kind of conclude here. First of all, we want to support all jurisdictions to consider identified issues before developing or using technology or undergoing digitalization or considering hybrid working models. The second is that when we talk about technology and digitalization, we also emphasize to consider the goals of probation and then also the essence of probation when choosing technology and digitalized working processes. And very important also is for us as Confederation of European Probation and as for our expert group is also that we could have a platform where we can share good practices and the benefits regarding the use of technology and digitalization. And this is something very essence of also the Confederation of European Probation as an organization, that we want to have a platform where we can share good practices between each other. And then we want to highlight some recommendations of the Council of Europe, and especially those what we can identify have a connection to the use of technology and digitalization in probation. And then, of course, as organization, as Confederation of European Probation, who is EU-funded, mostly EU-funded organization, we also want to remind everyone that as an organization, we also bear in mind that we have the EU directives of data protection and security. And this is very much involved in everything especially when we talk about use of technology and digital tools. And then David is continuing to talk more about the definitions we had made. Please, David.
Thank you, Pia. Yeah, we had quite a bit of discussion in the expert group around definitions, as you can imagine, with people from different jurisdictions and practices in probation. So what we did is we came up with a number of definitions that we agreed on. And I won't read them all out, but they were remote working, remote supervision, on face-to-face supervision, and hybrid working and supervision. And we went into some detail about those, and you can read about that in the recommendations themselves. So if we go to the next slide, Pia.
Mm-hmm.
We also looked at principles in respect of probation and technology, and these were just some of the examples there from the principles that have already been established across Europe. And one of the first ones there you see about community sanctions, providing a just and effective supervision, guidance and assistance to it says they're suspects or offenders. So we gave a lot of attention to principles that had already been established, rather than reinventing the wheel in our recommendations. So we're kind of complying with what has already been agreed there. Next slide, Pia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just a little bit about digital probation. So probation organisations should aim to leverage all the many advantages and potential benefits that digitisation and new emerging technologies might offer. Well, I mean, that's a guiding thread that goes throughout our recommendations. But nevertheless, this should not undermine the building of meaningful and trustworthy professional relationships with clients or their efforts to help them achieve positive life objectives on their path to desistance. Bit of a mouthful, but actually we just want that balance to be emphasized. And I say again, that goes through the whole of the recommendations. And then we looked at what circumstances digitization is more likely to be successful. And we thought that if it was implemented using inclusive implementation methods, where both staff and clients are consulted and included appropriately in the process of designing systems and tools at all stages. And it just occurred to all of us that this approach is potentially very useful and effective to bear in mind. Next slide, Pia. So digital probation takes up the bulk of our recommendations, and this is around evolving different ways of working, or evolving ways working. So digital probation involves using digital technologies to enhance probation services, but this approach varies significantly across jurisdictions, and that came out very clearly, obviously, with a diverse expert group. So there's variations in adoption. The different regions will adopt digital technologies at different rates and different ways. Some have been quick to digitize, while others are slower or exploring new advancements like AI and advanced surveillance. In terms of probation tasks, digital tools are used to assess clients' risk of offending and their strengths, often replacing in-person meetings with more efficient digital solutions. So we got a lot of jurisdictional differences in different areas. The approach to digital probation reflects each jurisdiction's freedom to choose technologies, cultural norms, available funding. Some areas are tightly regulated, while others are a little bit more free to innovate. And regarding automated decision making, the use of automated decision systems varies. Some jurisdictions restrict it, while others see an opportunity, leading to different levels of adoption. While digital technologies can offer new ways of working, they haven't yet provided a magic bullet solution. And this is outlined in the recommendations. The key is often to use these technologies to support, not replace, the essential human relationships in probation work. So emerging technologies like AI can introduce biases, necessitating robust regulatory frameworks and guidance. And of course, we're recommending that that those robust regulatory frameworks and guidelines are developed. We emphasize inclusion in design. So successful digitization involves including both staff and clients in the design process, ensuring the systems meet their needs effectively. So to ensure successful digitization in probation, it's crucial to include both staff and clients in the process. And this involvement can lead to more effective and accepted digital systems. And certainly we referred to the work of Paliez and Kerwin from 2023, who outlined 6 phases for digital projects. And they are, I won't go into huge detail, you'll be glad, but they mentioned actively listening, participating in problem definition and design solutions, consistency in design strategies, development of online activities, evaluation, and proposals for improvement. And it was important to maintain knowledge chains during disruptive changes, and these are seen as essential, and they can be damaged during transitions to digital services. So this approach helps to ensure that digital probation technologies are used creatively and effectively. Now, one of the things we mentioned in the recommendations were probation offices that can serve as technological hubs, enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of probation services. So start with the enhanced office spaces. So purpose-built probation offices that can integrate technologies like CCTV, electronic locks, alarms to create controlled, safer environments for staff and clients, and also directly link priority alarm systems. So creating a safe, enhanced space. Modern workplace offices can provide modern workspaces with larger monitors, video conferencing tools, intelligent whiteboards, and other shared services, which might be available to staff working remotely. With regard to assistive technologies, offices can cater to staff requiring assistive technologies, ensuring reasonable adjustments are made. And also offices can play a part in democratizing technology. So offices can share technology with clients, offering managed networks, robust terminals, kiosks for rehabilitative activities, serving to democratize all the services. And they should be a welcoming design. Intelligent design can make offices secure, yet welcoming, using minimal security technology, even though I've mentioned quite a bit there, but it can be minimal, and thoughtful design elements like color and light. Community integrated offices can act as tech-enabled hubs, facilitating integration with local communities and allowing other trusted groups to use the facilities for joint working, for instance. Offices can support flexible working arrangements to provide modern facilities across multiple locations for staff convenience. So probation offices can therefore be transformed into sophisticated tech-enabled spaces that support both staff and clients effectively. Okay. It seems quite obvious to mention in 2024 that frontline probation staff benefit from using mobile office technologies like laptops and smartphones, which enable safer lone working and flexible operations. And here are a few key points, I guess, that we've mentioned in the recommendations. So laptops and smartphones almost regarded as minimum standard equipment with secure connections to case management systems. Device quality must be robust, secure and portable. Any technologies that are mobile need to be integrated with office systems. Case management systems that do vary from simple databases to complex systems with predictive algorithms. They should minimize administrative burdens and maximize time spent with clients. Ergonomic design and user involvement in system specifications are crucial. Smartphone use. Smartphones are increasingly used, supported by specialized apps for probation work, and this trend reflects technological advancements and the need for convenient and portable tools. So overall, the effective use of technology by frontline staff enhances their ability to perform their roles efficiently while maintaining flexibility and security, and that's something we very much emphasize. One thing we did look at was agile working, which is ideal for probation staff who prefer working on the move rather than in a fixed office. So agile working allows staff to be more widely distributed using modern communication technology to stay connected and on track. So obviously they have a different technology requirements. So essential tools include secure laptops, smartphones, personal security devices, and portable cases. High quality, reliable technology is crucial for people who are doing agile working. And we're looking at agile in terms of environmental benefits. This approach can be more sustainable, potentially reducing travel, and also the need for large office spaces. We said quite a bit about agile working in the recommendations. Okay. Also, and then in the recommendations, we will all recall that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Probation Service had to adapt quickly using available technologies to continue operations. And some of the things that that we noted was that jurisdictions were not yet fully digitized. The jurisdictions that were not yet fully digitized struggled to provide remote services effectively, and many services post pandemic have continued to digitize, allowing staff to work from home in many cases for some tasks, while others have reverted to pre-pandemic practices using home working as a contingency. So working from home isn't ideal for everyone. It requires a suitable workspace that ensures privacy and confidentiality for sensitive communications. And with appropriate technology, however, and systems, most administrative tasks can be done remotely, which many staff prefer to avoid workplace distractions. So to prepare for future pandemics, jurisdictions should develop robust digital infrastructures to support remote working effectively. And this approach ensures that probation services can continue seamlessly, regardless of external disruptions. So we did look in the recommendations at remote interviews and supervision. We looked at the technological requirements of that. We looked at blended supervision. We looked at client preferences. And of course, we took into consideration equal opportunities, because remote supervision can reduce the burden of travel and attendance at probation offices, benefiting disadvantaged or vulnerable groups. So while remote supervision offers many benefits, a balanced approach that includes in-person interactions is often the most effective. Moving on, in the recommendations, we covered electronic monitoring. And we noted that there are two main types of electronic monitoring used in probation: radio frequency, or RF, or global positioning systems, GPS. RF technology monitors if an individual is at a specific location, even if they're on the move. At a specific. GPS provides real-time tracking and can enforce exclusion zones, for instance. And we did look at additional technologies such as other EM types, such as alcohol monitoring, smartphone tethered devices for convenience and discretion. So we did look at the effectiveness of GPS versus RF systems. And GPS is generally seen as more effective and acts as a greater deterrent. However, if you just want to know where someone is in a specific location, then RF electronic monitoring serves this purpose very well. We looked at legal and ethical concerns around electronic monitoring, and we also looked at public safety aspects of electronic monitoring, acknowledging that EM alone cannot guarantee public safety or rehabilitation, should complement the support provided by probation staff. So overall, EM technologies should be used thoughtfully and ethically, ensuring they support the goals of probation and public safety. Okay, so next slide, Pia. Okay, of course, through the recommendations, we covered good practices with regard to remote supervision, video calls, etc. As already mentioned, what constitutes a safe space for a client and staff to undertake probation work, and importance of initially building the professional relationship with a client prior to using remote and digital probation. And we thought that was particularly important because there were some suggestions in some ways that you should launch straight into kind of digital probation work without building that relationship first. So we thought it very, very important to integrate all the general principles that have been established over the years of probation work itself, and that the protocols that we agree around this, around technologies, should be both agreed and shared. And there are many examples of technology that were referred to in the recommendations that can be used in probation itself. Next slide, Pia, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So in the end, in the end, we have also just want to share now in the webinar also that we have this kind of a checklist in the recommendations, just to have as a list that you can go back to if you want to go back to looking into issues that we have enhanced in the recommendation. But what we also think is for have a beneficial and successful use of technologies is that, of course, we need to talk about the benefits and these benefits of new emerging technologies. So we need to kind of get behind the tech and also look at the impacts, both the good ones and maybe not the so good ones, and have a common discussion together about it and raise the awareness of this. And also this holistic approach is something we are raising in the recommendations, that we should adopt a holistic approach when regarding the use of technologies, and it should be kind of very smoothly coordinating with other working processes and activities we have in probation organizations. So it shouldn't be a standalone measure, and instead embedded in the other processes, and also to support those processes. And also that we, when we look into technology, digital tools, that we very much want to be informed about them in advance and open to critical evaluation and selection also when we talk about what kind of technology we will use or what we are using, and especially from the point of view that they are appropriate and fit the purpose of probation. And prior the implementation, to also undertake an impact assessment where we then look into the risks and benefits of each technology. And this we think is very necessary for having a successful use, both from the probation organization and the staff point of view, but also for the persons on probation, that we have a good manner in how we use the technology, and also that we include also the persons on probation to understand how we use them and why we use them. So that comes to this responsible and appropriate use of technology. This is a prerequisite we recommend in all consideration or in use of different technologies. And when we have implemented and are implementing widely the use of technology, it is a good kind of process to have a continuous evaluation of the effectiveness in relation to probation goals. So in the recommendations, we recommend that there should be these kind of regular intervals in this kind of evaluation. Are we doing it in the right way? Is this according to the probation goals? Is this effective? Is it giving that support for our probation work that we originally thought it will be giving us? And also have this kind of cross-sectional discussions also about this. Then, of course, to be confident in using technology, knowledge is an important issue. So also what we recommend is that we will more highlight the training of staff in use of certain technologies, because when we have a process of training, then the understanding of the technology is also more spread, and then we can be more kind of, as a professionals, more sure about how the technology actually works and how it has an impact on those goals we have set for the technology. Then digital management competencies is something we also discuss in the recommendation. So what we think is, like, we need to understand them, but we also need to manage them, and also have enough competencies in probation organizations in itself, and also that we have skill to have this kind of dialogue with tech companies who are providing the technology to probation organizations. But when we talk about probation work, we look at the whole picture also in this recommendation, and we know, and this is a good practice we have in probation works, that there is laws, but then there is internal guidelines and policies made in each jurisdiction, and they are normally aligned with European guidelines. And also when we talk about technology implementation, we should also have a correspondence about this, and also include those in the internal guidelines and policies. And to have a successful use of technology, it needs, in our opinion, approval from the senior management as well. So it's very important to have this for all staff members, and different kind of positions are involved together in looking into this technology use and digital probation. So it's a shared understanding and approval of how we use digital solutions in probation. But careful consideration is needed to the level of skills and the respective capabilities of clients also when we talk about digital probation. So we need to also have the understanding what skill level our clients have, and also provide them training and improvement in the skills of digitalization. As societies in Europe, we are more and more being digitalized societies, which means that it's so important to have this kind of approach also in the probation works to improve the digital skills of our clients. And David mentioned earlier about implementation approaches. So in the design of use of technology, the approach to engage also the end users, either staff or clients or both, in the early stages of implementation is very much supported in this our point of view, and in the recommendations as well. And when we have a technology use, it's good to also have some kind of assistance and support system in place for using that in the daily operations of probation. So the checklist is only made by looking into these major topics, but in the recommendations there is also more details about some things that you can look into when you are more interested in seeing all the details about different point of view of using technology and in enhancing this digital probation approach. But then Mirka, please share the next steps of the recommendations.
Okay, the next steps of the recommendation. The first sentence has already been mentioned by me. This webinar is recorded and will be published on the channel. But the most important information is that the practice recommendation will be published during the October. We expect beginning of October, by mid-October. It will be published on the CP website. In the newsletter, we will of course inform our members about the fact that this has been published. Last but not least, the work of the group will continue. As I said, is one of the longest operating group within the CEP. And the work will continue. And what we will do, we will gather information regarding current technologies and online services by CEP members. So we, of course, welcome you to join us for this data collection, and once we will contact you, we would be happy if you make time to answer our questions. So that's it for me from these slides. I would like to thank Pia and David for introducing this practice recommendation. And as it was mentioned in the beginning, I was part of the group, and I know how it was to draft these practice recommendations and to come to a common agreement. And now, as I see the time, we still have time for some questions. So is there any one of you who has any question to our speakers, or maybe you, Anna, has any question? Because I know that you are keen on education, and we mentioned education in our checklist.
Indeed, thank you very much, dear Mirka, and thank you very much, Pia and David. Your presentation was great, super clear, and really, really, really insightful. Okay, so one question related to training. You've mentioned that in the recommendations is included that the use of certain technologies is vital, and you already included that. Is that right? But my concern or my question is more related to probation office's methodologies. For example, do you envisage or do you plan to include training on methodologies used by probation officers? For example, how to build a working alliance in an online format, for example. Thank you very much.
Well, I can start to answer this question. We have been discussing this training part, and the conclusion was that we have a common documents and principles and trainings provided from CEP about these methods we use in probation work, which are evidence-based practices. So we concluded that we will not include in these recommendations these methodological aspects because we think we can put these together, these recommendations, and then we have other material which is providing the information about motivational interviewing, working alliance building, and also how to handle breaches, and how to do cross-sectional co-work, and all these very important topics that we have as a basic setup in a professional probation work. So we didn't want to include these because we looked into that and saw that we have a lot of material about all these techniques, methodological, and also the theory backgrounds. So this was something we decided on in the group. But saying this is not excluded that if there is a need for this, we can also continue working on providing some material about this online training, how to use technology to support training. It's not something we say no to, but at this point, we did draft the recommendations more about the technology aspect. But if David had something to add to this.
Yeah, not much to add, Pia, other than there are some exciting developments around in training, and also, you know, delivering things like group work, and all the technology is quite exciting around that. And obviously in training probation staff or new probation staff, I mean, certainly some of the training providers are using technologies that are in advance of what is used in most probation services. So, you know, we do benefit from technology in the training area.
Super, thank you so much. It's super interesting to see that you already considered this and you've discussed this, and you know that you are open to work on other possibilities if needed. Super, thank you.
I need to share that in the Q&A comments, we had two thank you, one from a colleague from Poland and the other one for a colleague from Turkey, that are thanking for this very interesting and practical presentation. The next question comes from Jerry McNally from Ireland, who is asking if the use of artificial intelligence is considered by the group. For example, use of ChatGPT in preparation of reports, whether use of risk assessment instrument is a technology, impact of assisted or automatic decision-making on the use of discretion in practice, is it a restriction, how predictive algorithms contribute to or drive risk aversion?
Thanks. I think I might take that one. Save Pia. Great question from Jerry there. Well, yeah, we have had discussion. There is a section in the recommendations that looks at AI. There's been some really excellent work done around AI and probation recently, and so we've tried to capture that in there. I mean, let's say there is a debate around AI use in probation. I'm certainly very interested in it, and some services have started to use it. I mean, certainly it's being used in judicial systems as we speak, to assist judges in probation. I mean, algorithms have been around for quite some time, certainly in the probation service in England and Wales, and other countries across, or jurisdictions across Europe, have started to experiment with it. So that's a whole webinar in itself, I think, Jerry, to go into all those. But yeah, certainly we did consider it, and we did look at some of the kind of emerging and exciting stuff that's going on. But we're, you know, within the framework of the recommendation, the way we sort of see things is to proceed with caution, and take great care in its use.
In the meantime, we have a comment from our colleague from Romania, from Josef Chatlos-Dima, on the use of ChatGPT. It's rather a comment that, in his opinion, the use of ChatGPT in probation work is in some contradiction with some confidentiality and GDPR issues. So I don't know whether you want to comment on that or not.
Yeah, I can make another comment. Yeah, this is about caution, really, because we want to keep data very secure within our various systems, and it can you can keep it secure, and there are ways of doing it. You know, I'm involved in some work in probation in England and Wales, where we're looking at ways of using AI that is informed by ChatGPT in a very safe way. And the safest way to do it is to enclose it in what's called a tenant. So there are ways to approach this. that don't just mean sort of hooking up to the internet. And those need to be looked at, I say, very carefully and cautiously in future. So yeah, ChatGPT, be wary. Don't expose your systems but there are ways forward, and they're being explored as we speak.
Thank you, David, for commenting on this. I can see that there are no other questions and we are running a little bit behind the time. So thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you once again, Pia and David, for your presentation. Before we close this meeting, I again have a few information for you. First of all, I would like to ask you to take a few moments and to fill in the EU survey. I already sent the link and all the information via the email this morning when I sent a reminder. And when you will leave this room, you will get a link to it. So please take a time and answer the survey. It would really help us if you do so. And the next webinar, the last webinar of this year, will take place on Thursday, 21st of November, again from 2 CET. And this time it will be on assessment. So thank you everyone for being with us. Have a lovely afternoon and see you next time.